Cass Elliot took a significant secret with her to the grave. No one knew the identity of her child's real father. Years later, her bandmate Michelle Phillips uncovered the truth, and it was a shocking revelation. Cass was the breakout star of the Mamas and the Papas, a renowned folk rock band, but her remarkable talent on stage masked a deeply challenging life. Her journey was filled with unrequited love, public missteps in her career, hidden emotional pain, and drastic dieting. She struggled with her self-image until her final days, and even now, a cruel myth tarnishes her legacy. Cass Elliot was born on September 19, 1941 in Baltimore, Maryland. She was originally named Ellen Naomi Cohen. Her family, Russian Jewish immigrants, faced financial struggles during her childhood. Despite these difficulties, Cass exhibited a magnetic personality and undeniable talent, foreshadowing her bright future. However, from a young age, she battled with her weight and the societal judgment that came with it. In high school, she found solace in performing arts, developing a love for theater and dazzling audiences. She adopted the stage name Cass Elliot, drawing inspiration from actress Peggy Cass and a late friend. This new identity became an alter ego that boosted her confidence to step into the spotlight. With this newfound courage, Cass made a decisive, albeit risky, move. She dropped out of high school and relocated to New York City to pursue acting. However, Broadway wasn't kind to her. After losing a role to Barbra Streisand, she shifted her focus to singing, hoping that music could offer what theater could not. Unfortunately, the path ahead would prove just as heartbreaking. Cass experienced moderate success in music early on, forming two bands, Big Three in 1962 to 1964, and late, the Mugwumps. It was during her time with the Mugwumps that she met Denny Doherty, a man who became the great love of her life. However, in a cruel twist of fate, Doherty was emotionally unavailable. Despite her feelings for him, Cass married her Mugwumps bandmate, guitarist James Hendricks, in 1963. This marriage wasn't based on love, but was a practical arrangement to help Hendricks avoid the military draft. The union was short-lived, lasting only 8 months. After the Mugwumps disbanded, so did her ties to Hendricks. Cass hoped Denny Doherty might choose to follow her, but instead he joined the New Journeymen, a group that included the married duo John and Michelle Phillips. Cass was determined to join the new band at any cost. Doherty had rejected her romantically due to her weight, but he couldn't deny her immense talent. He believed she was the missing piece for the New Journeymen. However, John Phillips resisted bringing Cass into the group, claiming her voice was too deep for their arrangements. Privately, though, his objections were more personal. He thought Cass was too heavy to fit the image he envisioned for the band. This criticism deeply affected Cass, who had already struggled with society's rigid beauty standards. In an era that idolized slim figures like Audrey Hepburn's, Cass felt like she didn't stand a chance. Despite John Phillips' repeated rejections, Cass was determined to join the band, partly to be closer to Doherty. Michelle Phillips later revealed that Cass followed the group everywhere they went, enduring cruel treatment in the process. The New Journeymen treated her worse than they would a bothersome fan, ordering her to fetch drinks, mocking her, and allowing her to rehearse with them but never perform. Still, Cass didn't give up, and soon, the situation would shift in her favor. The New Journeymen had a reputation for prioritizing partying over their music, often spending their money recklessly. Eventually, they ran out of funds and had no choice but to turn to Cass for help. Homeless and desperate, they arrived at her Los Angeles home. Cass saw this as her chance. She offered them a deal: they could stay with her, but only if they let her join the band. With no other options, John Phillips reluctantly agreed, regardless of his opinions about her appearance. There's another version of how Cass became part of the band, though. For years, the official story was that fate, not financial troubles, brought Cass and the New Journeymen together. According to this account, Cass accompanied the band on a trip to St. Thomas in the Virgin Islands. While walking near a construction site, a pipe fell and hit her on the head. The bizarre incident allegedly caused a head injury that miraculously enabled her to sing in the higher register John Phillips had been seeking for the band. The story about the pipe to the head incident was likely just Cass's way of hiding a more embarrassing truth. Decades later, sources close to the band revealed that John Phillips didn't want fans to know that he had essentially fat-shamed Cass out of joining the group. Regardless of the real story, Cass eventually became part of the band. After a burst of late-night inspiration, they renamed themselves the Mamas and the Papas, and soon after, their success took off. With Cass's powerful vocals, they recorded massive hits like California Dreamin' and Monday Monday. However, even after joining the band, the cruel remarks about Cass's weight didn't stop. In fact, they escalated. John and Michelle Phillips, along with Denny Doherty, openly mocked her weight in their song lyrics. For instance, in their hit Creek Alley, they included the line, "No one's getting fat except Mama Cass." The lyric resonated with fans, and much to Cass's dismay, the nickname Mama Cass stuck. Things took an even more painful turn when one of her bandmates crossed a personal boundary. Cass had joined the Mamas and the Papas largely because of her unrequited love for Denny Doherty. Sadly, while she was secretly in love with him, he was infatuated with someone else, Michelle Phillips, the very person Cass envied most. When Doherty confessed to Cass that he was having an affair with Michelle, Cass was devastated and consumed by jealousy. Heartbroken, she confronted Michelle saying, "You can have any man in the world. Why take the one man I love?" Despite the heartbreak, Cass still held on to hope that Doherty might one day return her feelings. Years later, Doherty revealed that Cass had even proposed to him one night, but he hadn't responded because he was too drunk. Struggling with her emotions, Cass channeled her pain into music and sought solace in dangerous substances, which led to increasingly erratic behavior. In 1967, Cass traveled to London ahead of her bandmates for a scheduled performance. However, her trip took a troubling turn when local authorities detained her for allegedly stealing bed linens from the apartment where she was staying. Rumors swirled that the police were actually after her for something far more serious. One of Cass's many rumored lovers was a man named Pick Dawson, who was also wanted by the authorities. Cass's life was filled with challenges and dramatic turns. In addition to possibly being romantically involved with Dawson, he was also her drug supplier. Authorities in London sought to use the accusations against her to build a case against him. Cass spent an entire night in jail, facing potentially serious charges. However, when she appeared before the magistrate, the charges were dropped due to lack of evidence. Despite this, the negative publicity forced her band, the Mamas and the Papas, to cancel a scheduled performance. It became clear that her time with the group was nearing an abrupt end. Heartbroken and left with nothing but hurt feelings and disparaging lyrics from her bandmates, Cass began contemplating her next move. Her solo career took off with the success of her recording of "Dream a Little Dream of Me." Cass decided to leave the Mamas and the Papas and embark on a solo journey. Shortly after the band's breakup, she secured a major performance deal at Caesars Palace in Las Vegas, a 3-week contract worth 6 figures. This opportunity had the potential to make her the breakout star of the former group. However, as a solo act, Cass felt immense pressure to lose weight. Determined to slim down for her Vegas debut, she undertook an extreme crash diet, fasting 4 days a week for 7 months. She lost 1/3 of her 300-pound weight, but the drastic measures came at a severe cost to her health. In the weeks leading up to her Las Vegas performance, Cass's health deteriorated rapidly. She developed acute tonsillitis, hemorrhaging vocal cords, mononucleosis, and hepatitis, all consequences of her dangerous dieting. Despite her excitement for the debut, she was physically unprepared. The star-studded audience, including celebrities like Sammy Davis Jr., Jimi Hendrix, and Mia Farrow, gathered to witness her first solo show. But Cass, weakened by illness and barely rehearsed, struggled on stage. Her voice was so faint that the audience could hardly hear her. Her contract required her to perform 2 shows per night. After resting briefly, she attempted the second performance, but her voice only worsened. The audience grew increasingly frustrated and began walking out. Caesar's Palace ultimately canceled her contract. To make matters worse, the media was merciless. Newsweek compared her disastrous debut to the sinking of the Titanic. The harsh criticism left Cass devastated, and she sank into a deep depression. Amid the turmoil, one source of joy remained in her life: her newborn daughter, Owen. Cass had given birth to a healthy baby girl shortly before signing the Las Vegas contract. Despite the chaos in her career and personal life, she was deeply committed to being a good mother. She fiercely protected her daughter's privacy, even going as far as firing nannies who became too attached. To shield Owen from media scrutiny, Cass kept the news of her child out of the headlines and refused to reveal the identity of the father, despite rampant speculation from the press. Throughout her career, darker rumors often surrounded Cass Elliot. Known for hosting legendary Hollywood parties, frequented by the biggest stars, and some infamous ones, there are claims that she once hosted the notorious cult leader Charles Manson and his followers at her home. While the extent of her connection to Manson is unclear, it was enough to make some people view her differently. After Manson orchestrated his horrific crimes, John Phillips, her bandmate, blamed Cass for introducing Manson to their circle, and even held her partially responsible for the brutal murder of Sharon Tate. Fortunately, authorities did not share Phillips's view. After a disappointing solo debut in Las Vegas, Cass's career stalled, though she continued to appear on television. She even hosted her own variety specials, the Mama Cass television program and Don't Call Me Mama Anymore. Despite her professional efforts, Cass longed for more than just a middling career. She yearned for love. In 1971, she met Donald von Wiedenmann, a journalist in Bavarian Baron Air. Their whirlwind romance led to marriage, but it ended in divorce just 2 months later. Cass's health began to deteriorate, exacerbated by her dangerous dieting habits. In 1974, while backstage at the Johnny Carson show, she collapsed unexpectedly, though she dismissed the incident as exhaustion, saying, "My blood sugar level dropped or something, and I just sort of tipped over." It was a clear warning sign of her declining health, one she chose to ignore. Later that year, Cass completed a successful 2-week concert series at the London Palladium. Instead of resting, she celebrated by attending Mick Jagger's 31st birthday party in Chelsea, followed by a brunch in her honor hosted by Georgia Brown. At the brunch, Cass appeared unwell, frequently coughing, blowing her nose, and struggling to breathe. That evening, she attended another party hosted by entertainment journalist Jack Martin. Normally the life of the party, Cass seemed unusually drained, though she insisted she was simply exhausted. This would be her final public appearance. Cass returned to an apartment in London's Mayfair neighborhood, owned by Harry Nilsson. The next day, when her secretary noticed she hadn't left her room, he entered and found her lifeless in bed. She had died of a heart attack at just 32 years old. However, rumors quickly spread, falsely claiming she had choked on a ham sandwich, a cruel jab at her struggles with obesity. 4 years later, The Who's drummer Keith Moon also died in the same apartment at the age of 32. After her death, Cass's daughter went to live with her younger sister Leah. Years later, Michelle Phillips, Cass's former bandmate, revealed the identity of Cass's secret lover and the father of her daughter, Owen. He was Chuck Day, the second guitarist on the hits Monday Monday and California Dreamin'. In October 2022, Cass was posthumously honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, attended by her family and friends, including Michelle Phillips. Cass faced immense challenges in an era when fatphobia was rampant. People openly made degrading comments about her weight, even on live television. Despite this, her extraordinary talent shone through. Her voice was unparalleled. When the Mamas and the Papas reunited for their Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction in 1998, 3 backing singers were needed to try to replicate her presence during their performance of California Dreamin'. Yet, they still couldn't match her power. Cass Elliot's legacy endures, a testament to her remarkable talent and resilience in the face of adversity.